Go.
Okay, we were talking about then again with the respect and everybody. I think, to coming back to this is probably one of the greatest experiences to grow up in. It's one of the greatest places in the world to have been to get the roots music, because one of the things that I know that you talked about this, you see people all over the place, and they don't know how to play anything except what they've either written. They don't know. They have no basic music knowledge. The bands today, they really don't. And it's amazing that the virtuosity, they can play the notes and they can shred, and the drummers are, they can play like Steve Gadd, but they can't play with a band. And that's been the problem. This is why the Milwaukee, Chicago, that area, the music, and you can cite anybody will tell you that too. It had the greatest blues scene. It had the greatest roots music scene. It was better than L.A. It was better than New York. It was better than San Francisco. And to me, it was even better, down in Atlanta and New Orleans and that. It just is I think it was incredible. Otherwise, so many of those people wouldn't come. And then, Freddie King, as we just went quickly, the Texas blues, which is the more hardcore blues, the Stevie Ray Vaughan and Steve Earle and those people. Freddie King is from Texas, but made his home in Chicago, and then went back down. And he considered himself, and he even said, that Chicago was really what made it for him. I mean, there's been no greater experience. I mean, it's too bad that people, more people couldn't have that experience. We play with a lot of people we play with through the years. Jim, I hadn't seen Jim in 20 years, and he came out. I was working in East Hampton, and he, would play a club out there, and I'd, sit in with him when he was playing with Luther Allison, and John Paris would come out and play, and, we'd sit in with him, or Bob would come out, and it's just, it's amazing that the connection that people have actually kept. Some people may not have been in touch, but when you see each other, it's like it was yesterday.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
This is, let me jump in for a second, because we were just talking to Freddie, and I posed a question similar to what you're talking about whether, was this unique to what happened in Milwaukee, particularly on the east side, North Shore, and that, and Fred was, no, I think this happened in a lot of Midwestern towns. Cincinnati and Cleveland and Detroit all had groups like this, and you run into them in L.A., you run into them in Nashville.
You ran into the players. You didn't run into a lot of the bands. What happened, just again, we always, and you got to admit this too, I mean, we thought we were really good, okay, individually too, not just the bands. Then when we got to places
whoa. Bands. See, that's one thing I've always respected about, let's go all the way back to Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. And then all our bands we had in Milwaukee, all the bands that Sam has mentioned, they were really bands. I mean, everybody played parts.
Yeah. And we were really good as bands. Nobody.
Yeah, and that's something you hardly ever see.
Most other places, and I know what happened in other places. Most other places, people here. I mean, Fred may have said it could have occurred in other places, but the people that I ran into were mostly, they were to achieve for themselves. The Milwaukee bands, very few of them recorded. Very few in Milwaukee bands recorded. A lot of them had some opportunities. There weren't the opportunities like there are today.
No, we thought that people from New York or Los Angeles made records, not us guys in Milwaukee.
We played.
We blew it. I mean, we blew our...
But you know what? We played, and we were happy.
Yeah.
I mean, we were happy. We weren't guys that got in the business to aspire to be, to sell 1 million records. It would have been nice, but I was content whether we did or we didn't. Nobody was struggling, enough to make a living that if they didn't get a record done that they would leave a group. I mean, the bands, I was with a few different ones, and I went a few different directions. I mean, I like blues and that, but I joined Fred's band, Freddie and the Freeloaders, which was an R&B band. I was young. I just finished playing with Junior in the Classics, who was kind of a twofold, some blues and a lot of R&B, but very cool stuff. and I loved that music. That's another thing here that a lot of towns didn't have, the great R&B scene along with the blues, because the R&B, and I'm talking, you know, the Impressions and Major Lance, you know, James Brown, that. A lot of towns had either that, or they had blues bands, or they had the other, you know, rock. We had everything here.
Yep.
And it was fun, and then as people aspire to start, you know, do their own thing. Of course, you know, when Hendrix came out and Cream and the English bands, everybody's head started changing. I mean, I remember back too, there's a gentleman here tonight who was a very good friend of mine who was in our first band, The Counts, which was Jeff Weicker and me and Dan Sager and Bob Metzger, who you'll be meeting shortly. And you would have your friends be in the band, whether they ever played an instrument or not. And you know, we got together, and that was the way it was. And then as people wanted to play something else, or you had the Hound Dog Band, Ed Sassone, who was the drummer, never played drums before, but we had him he was our drummer. We said, "You're our drummer." We got him a set of drums, and he played from the first day. He was great. Those are the kind of things that happened because we wanted to play music with our friends, you know. And I just think that you know, I've never experienced anything like it anywhere I've been. The friendship that was in the music scene itself, along with everything else, I think Milwaukee is unique to that. I mean, people can say what they want. Chicago's a big city, but Chicago, there's a lot of competition. A lot of competition. You know, you saw that. You played more in Chicago than I did. And, you know, it was a little cutthroat. But everybody here, literally everybody knew everybody. And you will never, I don't see, Fred can say that it existed anywhere else. I don't think it existed anywhere else like it did here. I mean,
I agree with that.
And I've been all over, and I've seen, you know, I've gone to things, you know, when you go to Nashville and you see the scenes there, and you know, or Memphis, you know, Atlanta, everywhere. It's not tight. And friendship is more important than anything else, you know. I mean, family, friends, it's, you know, that was a key. I think that if that didn't exist, the music business would not have been fun, and a lot of us would have left it a lot earlier.
I came down here in '71 or '2. I was just greeted with open arms by everybody, and it was beautiful. I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, by some of the best musicians I've ever known. You know, I mean, real quality cats. Not only personally, but musically, and I respected their ability to play their instruments. And
you know, I would think
it was really it was really something. I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't come to this town.
When you sat in down here, when you play with other bands or you got in bands, nobody overplayed. Everybody was, you know, they gave you room, they respected it. When you sat in, you know, everything was out of respect.
That's something I still teach young musicians today, as I say, you know, play with your ears.
Yeah.
And this whole group of people we're talking about all seem to be capable of doing that. They can play with their ears. You know, they're involved in the motion of the tune at this very second, and nobody's stepping on each other's toes. They respect, you know, everybody's respecting everybody, and that's something that's really rare to find. I mean, you could find it here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, you get satisfied. You get in, you know, you play what you play. I mean, to me, it's a feel, you know, it's just, it feels good. I mean, we're doing a show with people that haven't played together in 37 years, and after a couple days, you would never know it. And that's, you know, because everybody it's instilled within them. Even people that haven't been playing, once it's inside of you, you know, I mean, I'm waxing philosophic, but I mean, once it's inside of you, it really never leaves. I mean, you know, yeah, I have played more in the last 3 days, you know, hour-wise, than I played in the last 25 years. You know, in the last 20 years, if I played, you know, a couple hundred times, I practiced exactly 0, because nobody rehearses, and, you know, sometimes, but, you know, I found out again, rehearsals can be fun when they're for a certain purpose. other than years ago when they were just tedious. But it's just it's indescribable. And anybody that says that they experience the same thing anywhere else, I'm not just saying it because I'm from here. I think I don't believe it. I mean, I've been to those places, and you could see it. Anybody, you can come to Milwaukee anytime, and if you get anywhere within the music scene or any musicians, and you ask them about it, you're gonna hear the same thing we're saying. Where if you go anywhere else, you're not gonna hear the same thing. You downstairs? All right. He's downstairs. Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, you just went down?
Could each go through your history of bands you played in Milwaukee? Who your players were?
All right, my bands. The first band I was in, I was playing bass with the Destinations, and Reed Kaling, who is still in Milwaukee. In fact, I think somebody ran into him at John Pierce's show at Summerfest. It was Reed Kaling, Sid Rice, Fred Hadler, and I don't remember who the other gentleman was. Then I wanted to play guitar, so I started playing guitar and was in a band with Bob Metzger, who played bass. Dan Sager played guitar, and Jeff Weicker played drums. And then as we went from there, we started a band called the Walkers, which originally was Jerry Harrison, who later on went to play with the Modern Lovers and David Byrne, the Talking Heads. Bob Turner was a drummer. Sid Rice played rhythm guitar. Bob Metzger played, Sid didn't, first Dick Mann played rhythm guitar. Like I say, Jerry Harrison played piano, Bob Metzger played bass, and Tom Vonier was the singer. And Bob had started learning guitar, and I took off from that band to join Junior and the Classics. I had met Junior somewhere, and it was a three-piece for a while. Junior played keyboard, bass, and Al Berrien was a drummer. Then sometimes off the well-known gentleman named Berkeley Fudge, who was a sax player. And then from there I joined a band called Freddie and the Freeloaders, which was a local R&B band, which was one of the most fun bands there ever was. Pete Leshin, Jim Gaskell, bass player. Pete was a drummer. Fred sang. Charlie Brooks and Randy Bird were two of the horn players. There were the trumpet players. Randy also played sax. Jack Feldstein played saxophone. And I do not remember actually the name of the keyboard player. It was Jeff something. And later in the band, John Burgess joined, and Warren Wiegratz as a sax player. And from there, at the end of that band, this is where my career thing changed. Jim Gaskell, the bass player, and Pete Leshin, the drummer, and I we went out of R&B, we wanted to play Cream and Hendrix. And at the end of each show, for a couple of times, we would play I Feel Free and Foxy Lady, which did not fit from the rest of the night. And from there, I went in and I got together with some guys, and we hung out. We hung out at the beach, singing and drinking, at the top of Atwater Beach. And we were thinking of band names. We didn't have a band, but we were thinking of band names. And first it was the Mango Crows, and then it was the Crows. And the gentleman I was with, who I had met, one was Mark Sychek, and the other was Randy Monaghan, a guitar player. And Ed Sassone, who became the drummer, who was just hanging out, and we decided to start a band, which we ended up calling the Hound Dog Band. And that was a band that I played with literally until I left Milwaukee. I did, at the end, after the band was dissolved, I played, from my Milwaukee days, and I was putting a band together with Howie Epstein, Jason Klagstead, who was still playing locally, and Brad Seif, who was our drummer. It was one of the strange things is that the band The Ox, which was John Paris and Bob Metzger and Brad Seif, we traded drummers. And it was one of the, it was like a baseball trade.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it was strange. We both got quality, Brad kept wondering why, but you know, he was very happy, and I think it worked out for the best, you know. And the performance we have coming up, we're playing with both of them at the same time. So this is going to be the first time the two of them will have ever actually played together in a band, and it's going to be kind of neat. So, you know, I had gone on to play with other people, but you know, that's time for another thing. So, Jimmy.
Well, it was interesting you brought up trading drummers and relating it to baseball, because remember we used to play softball every Sunday.
Yes, we did.
We had a group of bands and we'd have softball games on Sunday if we made it back to town from wherever we were the night before in time to play the game. Remember that? And I think sometimes we even had a half barrel, didn't we?
We did a half hour. Sometimes we played triple headers. These days, it's enough to just watch a game, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you find
We
out
did
that
it.
Yeah, we did, man. We would play triple header baseball and then just, you know, that was like nothing. Nowadays, it's, oh man, you know, getting up is just, it feels good. You know, you're still there. You just check everything.
Still
look in the
there.
mirror, go, still here, you know. But I remember when you came to Milwaukee too with the bands. But I know you were in a lot of bands. We ran into you a few times when we were up and we played in Eau Claire and that. I think we met some of you guys up at that.
Oh yeah, we'd, and I think a lot of that had to do with Mike Kappas, who coincidentally
Was from, yeah.
well, not coincidentally, but yeah, he's from there, but he's putting this whole reunion together. Thank you, Mike, because,
And Bob,
you know,
and Jim, everybody that's involved.
yeah,
with it,
everybody involved.
I mean, I just got to say that it's like this is the one of the greatest moments of my life. It feels. I mean, it's the happiest I've been in I don't know how many years.
I got to tell you guys, I was driving into town today, and I drove up from Cincinnati area, and so I decided to take North Avenue exit. And if y'all remember the little curve around, what was it, Humboldt Park or
Oh
something?
yeah.
I had the radio station on and some cat playing slide guitar. Just as I'm going around, I'm entering our old east side, somewhere over the rainbow on slide guitar comes on the radio. And that just about brought tears to my eyes, and yeah, we're here, baby.
It is. It's just, you know, like I say, you can't explain it. There literally, and this is the honest to God truth, there was no bad music in the late '60s and early '70s here, or even from the mid. There wasn't no bad music. Every band you saw, the music was really good.
Yep.
Some of the bands were not as as good as, but the music itself, just from the English stuff, the mixture of music here was incredible. You'd go see Harvey Skill and the Seven Sounds, great R&B band. The next night, you'd see the Searchers playing there, the Yardbirds at the CYO dance, the Who opening for the Blues Magoos in Madison. It was like these days, and when you tell people, you look at the Midwest Rock Festival poster, who played on it? Oh, Led Zeppelin, Blind Faith, Jeff Beck, and people don't even believe it. I mean, it's unbelievable. To the time when Summerfest, where Charlie Fain, put this thing together, put all the bands for it. What's become now, according to the world's largest music festival, it's Milwaukee. Milwaukee, they say what made Milwaukee famous made a loser out of me. Well, we're okay. Milwaukee, the lake, beer, brats, and bands. That's it.
Yeah.
Beers, brats, and bands, the 3 Bs.
3 Bs and
Well, I
blues.
guess Sam sums it up.
No, excuse me, the 4 Bs and blues. And blues and bed if you can fit it in the schedule.
But Jim, what bands did you play in once you came to Milwaukee?
I came down to town and moved in with Mike Kappas and Bob Metzger, and we put together a little band. Actually, Mike kind of helped put it together, and Mike was our mutual agent for all these bands at the time. And so we had a band called Dynamite Duck, and all the way till his last dying breath, Luther used to rub that in. He just loved that name, and he loved that band because we used to do shows together. But anyway, so we played Dynamite Duck, and it was myself and John Paris, There's other members throughout it. There was also Charlie Brooks on sax, you
That's
mentioned.
right, and didn't Dagenhart play for a while
And
before?
I was going to mention Jeff Dagenhart was in it, and a fella named Jeff Hilgert on drums, and Mark Lewis on bass all the way through. And then we robbed the cradle. There was a young kid up in I guess that'd be Shorewood,
Yeah.
Danny Schmidt, who was just an incredible drummer. We robbed the cradle at 16 with that guy. He's not with us anymore, and I drug his butt all over Europe several times on some of our tours, but as well as everybody else. And then, and at the same time, there was a band named Short Stuff, which you all know about, was going on. And remember, Liban went to Nashville to
That's right.
write songs. So Junior kept the band going, at which point Jeff Dagenhart played with Short Stuff, John Paris played with Short Stuff, I played with Short Stuff, and on and on and on. And I think ultimately, after Eric Epstein left Short Stuff, then I played with them for about 3-4 years. And that would have been, late 70s,
Yeah.
I think up to 81. And before and in between and after all this stuff, I'd been playing with Luther Allison, which involved a lot of the local musicians here in Milwaukee.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And ultimately, I ended up being off and on Luther's band leader for 25 years. Look at this guy coming in the door. I love him. Hey, partner.
No, but I'll have to call you and let you know what time we're meeting down.
Take it.
Okay?
Sam's on the phone to go.